Hey, what's up gamers? I'm back from my holiday from Ronda, Malaga and Granada. I had a really great time the past few days. We went on a little bit of a budget trip over to Spain because my wife and I wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day a little bit early. But I'm back now with a new deck tech for all of you, and this time we're going to be covering Kassai Centauri Sellsword. So the first thing that I get asked a lot is, especially from newer players, can this deck be played on a budget? Well, personally, I don't think it's really all that good on a budget, but I suppose as long as you have the courage of Bladehold, you can very easily side in the Gallantry Gold as your arm piece for your arms, together with the Crown of the Minion. And then for the boots, well, you can probably go for the Refraction Bolters instead, but do keep in mind, Valiant Dynamos, they do a lot of work for the Kassai deck, because every time you attack twice with your Centauri Sabers, you do of course get to remove that -1 counters from your Valiant Dynamos, which really adds up over the course of the game and can really swing things in your favor. So when it comes between the Crown of Providence and the Crown of the Minion, well, I think that at this point of time the Crown of the Providence is still a little bit better than the Crown of the Minion, but the games that I've been playing where I do play the Crown of the Minion and I do draw into something like a cash-in, it just feels so good, you know what I mean? Like it just feels so spicy when you can use that gold piece to pay for your cash-in to draw 2 cards and have this massive Kassai Centauri Sellsword turn coming into your opponent. So I'm not sure. I think the Crown of Providence is definitely better, as well as the Brave Forge Braces over the Gallantry Gold. However, I like to have a little bit of RNG in my Blitz games, even though maybe I shouldn't, especially when we have a lot of heroes like Rhino becoming quite popular lately. So what do I have going on in my main board? I haven't really changed all that much in my Kassai deck since I went to the team calling in Madrid a couple of months ago. My team, I think we got 10th place at the team calling. We were just 1 win shy from getting into that top 8, which was a bit of a shame, but it was a lot of fun playing there. And when I'm looking at my deck in general and I was going through like what should I upgrade in here, the only thing that I really wanted to upgrade is basically Puncture. So I put Puncture into the deck. I can't really remember what I took out. I think, what is it, is a Streak of Foresight? I think that's the one that I ended up cutting in favor of the Puncture, because I do believe that Puncture in Blitz especially is just a superior card, because it is basically a +4, because at some point the opponent is going to be blocking with equipment anyways, and then you can use the Puncture to get a very nice effect of. I still play 1 route. Some people say that I should play a 2nd copy of Route, but instead of the 2nd copy of Route, I prefer running 1 copy of Minerva Themis. Minerva can screw you over at times, especially if you need an additional card to pitch for something, but it has a 3 block value attached to it, so in the worst case you can always just block with it, and I think it's worth running it. You might sometimes lose the tempo if you draw it into a turn where you really want to play all cards from your hand, but usually at those points of time the opponent is probably over blocking a little bit anyway, so putting this into your arsenal isn't all that bad, and it helps you to really get to your blood on the hands easier. In terms of all the go against, I got my go against in the deck a little bit. I don't run as many hit and runs anymore. I used to have like the full rainbow of hit and runs, but now I just run 1 red hit and run and 2 blue ones. This has to do with the amount of hit and run, the amount of go again available in the deck. I think as it stands right now, we have plenty of go again available to it, since we also run Spoils of War, we have Glint the Quicksilvers in here, and we have like the full rainbow package of Blade Runners. So I think in terms of go again, we're fine at the moment. I might end up cutting some cards here and there to add more go again into the deck if I feel it is necessary, but for the time being, especially now that we don't have as many Icelands and stuff in the format, I think having it like this is probably good and fine to go. How is the deck performing overall? Well, I've had some very decent results with it. Of course, it's still kind of going against a brick wall if you end up against something like a Fatigue All Team or something like that. They can very smartly block out your turns in a way that you cannot get enough copper to be able to do your big blood on the hands turn. The best thing to do is to just attack with your weapon and let them block with cards from hand, because eventually they are going to run out of resources. What you want to do is you want to spend as few cards as possible and make them spend as many cards as possible to block your attacks, because at some point they are going to run out and you will still have plenty of cards left in your deck. So I do advise against those fatigue strategies to kind of pitch your good cards to the bottom of the deck in the early game, so that later on in the game you still have some power left and it's not just blues at the very bottom. So that's something to keep in mind. Against Iceland, it always sucks, of course, when you go into your combo turn and they plonk something like a channel like Frigid down when you just cracked your Courage of Bladehold, but that's just the way it is. I have been considering to maybe run the Fiendal Spring tuning in this deck instead, simply because then we have an answer to them using the Coronet Peak as well, but I'm not sure. I feel it's okay to have a bad matchup here and there. Not everything needs to be a perfect matchup, and even so, even without the Fiendal Spring Tunic, you can sometimes catch them off guard in one of the off turns. Of course, a Icelander starts at a lower life total and you can very easily press a bunch of damage through, especially with things like Push Forward, which gives Dominate to your second swing. So if they don't have the Blizzard and they don't have that leg available and you do play a Push Forward and you hit them with a massive dominated attack, it can sometimes be game winning as well. Still one copy of Nourishing Emptiness. I've been considering to maybe run some E-Strikes and Command and Conquers in here, but the truth is I don't really know what to cut. Like, yeah, everything has a very clear function in there. You have the Outland Skirmish that help you to speed up your copper generation. We have the Slice and Dices that is basically just a +4 or a +2 on the blue slots, which is just very efficient in Flesh and Blood terms. So I haven't really found anything that I would want to cut in favor of something like an E-Strike, but there's definitely something to be said that running E-Strike and such can be good as like a mid-rangey aggro alternative, because you can very easily give go again to your first weapon swing, maybe even give go again to your second one, and then come in with a big attack like a Command and Conquer after that. Can be very, very spicy, and I think many decks are not really prepared to face something like that. But I think as the deck is right now, is probably the best to go. I think in terms of win rate, this Kassai deck, once you master everything, it probably has around like a 58-ish% win rate in the Blitz format right now, which is probably where it should remain for the time being. I'm curious to see if Outsiders has anything at all in the generic slots that could go into a deck like this, but we just need to wait and see how that's going to go, and also see how the meta is going to shift in the next month or so once we have new spoilers available. But for the time being, I think this is a very fun deck. It's definitely worth playing and definitely worth picking up. You don't really need the Crown of Dominion per se. If you have the Crown of Providence, you can even skip this one and then just cut one of the cash-ins in favor of like an additional copy of Hit and Run Red, and you should be pretty much good to go. Having one cash-in the deck is good anyway, especially if you already done your Blood on the Hands turn, and getting a bunch of copper from that in the cash-in in the late game can be quite useful as well. But yeah, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know, are you going to be playing Kassai in the Skirmish season or not? If you want other Blitz decks, by the way, I'm going to be updating a bunch of Blitz decks over on my Patreon, so do check that out. At as little as $10 a month, you already got access to pretty much all the decks I create and optimize. And if you just want to support the channel, I highly suggest clicking that join button under the video title, where there are some smaller donation plans available if you want to help with the monetary side of things on this channel. Anyways, thank you everyone, see you all next time, and have a great time playing Flesh and Blood.